Every age has its survivors, and every survivor has one thing in common: the willingness to evolve. Without it, even the strongest are left behind. This is Earl Nightingale. The history of mankind is the history of change. Civilizations that thrived were those that adapted to new ways of living, new ideas, and new opportunities. Those that refused to change crumbled into the dust of time. The same is true not only of nations but of individuals. Your survival, your very progress, depends on your ability to evolve. We often think survival is reserved for the strongest, the most gifted, or the luckiest. But history, both ancient and modern, tells us otherwise. It is not strength that guarantees survival. It is adaptability. It is the quiet willingness to let go of what no longer serves us and to embrace the unfamiliar when circumstances demand it. The person who clings too tightly to the past is like a sailor who refuses to adjust his sails to the changing winds. The storm doesn't destroy him, his refusal to adapt does. And so it is with us. The winds of life are always shifting. They may come in the form of new technologies, unforeseen challenges, or sudden opportunities. The question is never, will change come? The question is always, will you be ready to evolve when it does? Every great success story is built upon this principle. A man or woman discovers that their old habits, their old methods of thinking, are no longer enough. And in that moment of realization, they do the hardest thing a human being can do: they let go of the familiar. They step into the unknown, not with fear, but with determination. So how do we evolve? The first step is awareness. Recognize when something no longer serves you, whether it's a belief, a routine, or a relationship. The second step is courage. Take deliberate, intelligent action toward growth, even if it feels uncomfortable. The third step is persistence, because change is never instant. It is a gradual process of becoming, of refining, of adjusting again and again until new habits, new ways of thinking take root. Remember this: your survival depends on your ability to evolve. Hold on to that truth. The world will not stop for you, nor will it wait, but it will reward you richly and abundantly if you prove yourself adaptable. Now here is your call to action. Look at your life today. Identify one area where you've been resisting change. Perhaps it's a dream you've postponed, a skill you've neglected, or a habit you've refused to break. This very day, make the decision to evolve. Take one step, however small, toward a better version of yourself. Because survival is not about what you have. It is about who you are becoming, and the future belongs only to those who are willing to change with it. Survival is not about strength, it's about adaptability. If strength alone determined survival, then the mightiest creatures of the earth would still walk among us unchanged, untouched by time. But we know that history has shown us otherwise. The largest beasts, the most powerful forces of nature, have all fallen when they could not bend to the shifting world around them. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And the same principle applies to you and me in every area of life. A man may possess all the talent, wealth, or education in the world, but if he refuses to adapt to new conditions, those very strengths become his downfall. The walls he builds around himself, the patterns he clings to, become the very chains that prevent him from moving forward. Change is constant, and life does not wait for anyone. To resist it is to stand still on a riverbank, hoping the current will stop for your convenience. It never will. It moves on, carrying away those who will not step into its flow and learn to move with it. Adaptability is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is, in fact, the greatest demonstration of strength. For it takes wisdom to recognize when old methods no longer work, and courage to release them. The rigid tree may appear strong, but in the storm it is the one that snaps. The reed that bends survives the wind and rises again when the storm has passed. In the same way, our ability to adjust to new conditions, to accept what is and work with it, determines whether we merely endure life or thrive within it. Consider the pace of our world today. Ideas move faster than ever before. Technology reshapes industries overnight. Opportunities appear and disappear with remarkable speed. In such a world, knowledge alone is not enough. The ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn becomes the real key. The adaptable person is not intimidated by change. He greets it as a challenge, as a call to grow. He understands that flexibility is not the abandonment of principle, but the application of principle in new and effective ways. Each of us must ask, where am I clinging to what no longer serves me? Perhaps it is a habit, a way of thinking, or an outdated belief. These things once carried us, but like training wheels, they must eventually be set aside if we are to move ahead. Adaptability is not about changing who we are at our core. It is about allowing who we are to find its fullest expression in the ever-shifting circumstances of life. Strength may impress, but adaptability sustains. The world does not reward those who resist its seasons, but those who learn to move with them, to plant in spring, harvest in fall, and endure the winters with patience and foresight. This is the quiet law of life, and it belongs to all who are willing to accept it. Growth begins the moment you embrace change. Until that moment, life remains a repetition of yesterday, a cycle of familiar habits and predictable outcomes. Most people live within that cycle, seeking comfort in routine, mistaking sameness for security. But nothing grows in stillness. A seed left on a shelf never becomes a tree, no matter how perfect the conditions around it. It must be placed in the soil, broken open, and changed. Only then does it fulfill its purpose. And so it is with you and me. The human spirit is designed to expand, to stretch beyond the boundaries of the familiar. Yet so many resist this law of life. They hold tightly to the known, to the predictable, fearing what lies beyond the threshold of change. But fear is only a signal that you are standing on the edge of growth. The discomfort of change is the very evidence that you are moving into new territory. The longer you run from it, the longer you remain exactly where you are. Change is not the enemy. It is the doorway to every achievement, every advancement, every success you admire in others. No man or woman has risen to greatness by clinging to what they already knew. Every invention, every discovery, every breakthrough came because someone was willing to step into the unknown. The unknown is not a place of danger. It is the workshop of progress. Growth does not ask for perfection, it asks only for willingness. The willingness to see that your current way is not the only way, the willingness to release outdated habits, the willingness to adopt new disciplines even when they feel uncomfortable. It is in that willingness that transformation begins. You cannot pour new wine into old bottles, nor can you expect new results while holding on to old ways. The moment you embrace change, your mind begins to expand. You see possibilities that were invisible before. You discover abilities within yourself that had been lying dormant. You find opportunities where once there were only obstacles. Change sharpens the mind and strengthens the character because it demands flexibility, creativity, and resilience. Every adjustment you make strengthens you for the next challenge, and in time, you come to welcome change rather than resist it. Those who grow are those who understand that life is movement. Stagnation is decline. To remain the same is to fall behind, for the world does not stop moving. It never has and never will. The clock ticks forward, opportunities evolve, and conditions shift with or without your permission. The choice is whether you will shift with them. Growth begins with a simple decision to stop running from change and to start walking with it. The man who embraces change does not see endings. He sees beginnings. He does not see loss. He sees preparation for something greater. And each time he chooses to adapt, he becomes more than he was before. This is the eternal law of progress, and it is available to anyone willing to obey it. Comfort zones are illusions that delay progress. They appear safe, familiar, and reassuring, but in truth they are nothing more than invisible prisons that keep us from discovering who we really are and what we are truly capable of becoming. The comfort zone whispers promises of security, yet it robs us of opportunity. It lulls us into believing that if we simply remain where we are, life will remain steady and predictable. But life does not remain steady. Life is movement, and the person who refuses to move with it soon finds himself left behind. Think of the man who spends his life doing only what feels familiar. He avoids risk, avoids challenge, avoids the discomfort of growth. At first, his life may feel smooth and easy, but over time the ease becomes stagnation. He wonders why others are advancing, achieving, building, while he remains where he was years ago. The answer is simple: he chose comfort over progress. Progress never comes to those who wait in safety. It comes only to those who are willing to leave safety behind. A comfort zone is deceptive because it is built not from real walls, but from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty. Yet every achievement in history has been born from someone willing to face those very fears. The great leaders, the inventors, the builders of civilizations, all stepped beyond what was comfortable. They traded ease for growth, predictability for discovery, and in doing so they unlocked potential they would have never known inside the boundaries of safety. The truth is that discomfort is not a signal to retreat. It is a sign that you are growing. Muscles strengthen only when pushed beyond their limit. The mind sharpens only when challenged by new ideas. The spirit expands only when stretched by experiences outside of routine. Those who live in comfort never develop the strength that comes from perseverance, nor the confidence that comes from overcoming, nor the wisdom that comes from failure and renewal. What we call a comfort zone is really a waiting room where dreams are postponed and talents remain unused. The man who stays there convinces himself he is safe, but in reality he is shrinking. He is allowing fear to dictate his life instead of courage. And sooner or later, he learns that what he thought was security was actually the slow erosion of his own potential. The pathway to progress is marked by challenge. It is stepping onto a stage when your voice trembles, starting a venture when the outcome is uncertain, learning a skill that makes you feel unskilled. Each act of courage expands the circle of your life, and what was once uncomfortable becomes familiar. What was once frightening becomes second nature. In this way, progress is made, by continually expanding beyond the walls of illusion, by refusing to mistake comfort for peace, and by understanding that the true reward of life is found in growth, not in ease. Evolution requires shedding old habits and beliefs. Just as a snake must shed its skin to grow, so too must we release what no longer serves us in order to step into the next stage of our lives. We are creatures of habit, and while some habits empower us, others quietly hold us back, chaining us to outdated versions of ourselves. The tragedy is that many people spend their lives defending these chains, mistaking them for identity, when in reality they are nothing more than the remnants of an earlier stage of life that must now be left behind. Every belief you carry, every habit you repeat, was at one time adopted for a reason. Perhaps it kept you safe, perhaps it gave you comfort, perhaps it was all you knew. But as life moves forward, what once protected you can begin to limit you. The very walls you built for shelter can become the prison that confines you. To evolve is to recognize that not everything you hold on to deserves to be carried into the future. Growth demands a certain kind of courage. The courage to question, to release, and to rebuild. Consider the man who insists on doing things the way he has always done them. He clings to old methods, refusing to adapt. At first it seems noble loyalty to tradition, faith in the familiar. But soon he discovers that the world has passed him by. While he repeated the same actions, others advanced, embraced change, and unlocked new opportunities. He becomes like a farmer planting the same crop in the same soil year after year, eventually draining it of all its richness. Without renewal, without adaptation, his harvest diminishes, and so does his life. Evolution is not about discarding everything, but about discerning wisely. The question we must ask is simple. Does this belief, this habit, this way of thinking serve who I am becoming, or does it only serve who I used to be? If it belongs to the past, then it must be released. Shedding does not weaken us, it frees us, just as a tree must release its leaves in autumn to prepare for new growth in spring. We too must let go in order to make room for greater possibilities. Habits and beliefs are powerful forces, but they are not destiny. They can be changed, shaped, and replaced. Every day offers the opportunity to let go of one unproductive pattern and to replace it with something that leads us forward. The man who understands this principle no longer fears change, for he sees it as the path to becoming more. He does not cling to who he was yesterday, because he knows tomorrow demands someone stronger, wiser, and more capable. To evolve is to accept that life is a continuous process of renewal. Old versions of ourselves must die so new versions can be born. The refusal to shed is the refusal to grow, and the willingness to shed is the highest form of strength. In this way, evolution becomes not only possible but inevitable for the individual who dares to let go. Resilience is built through flexibility, not rigidity. Too often we mistake toughness for resilience, imagining that the strongest are those who plant their feet and refuse to bend under pressure. But real life does not reward the unyielding. It is not the oak tree, stiff and proud, that survives the storm, but the slender reed that bends and sways with the wind, only to rise again once the storm has passed. Rigidity may appear strong, but it is brittle. Flexibility may appear weak, but it endures. Resilience is not about resisting change, but about moving with it and adjusting to it without losing direction. The man who insists on forcing life into his own rigid design will soon be broken by its shifting seasons. Life does not conform to our expectations, nor does it pause to allow us to catch up. It changes, and those who adapt with it survive and even thrive. Those who resist are carried away by the very currents they try to oppose. The flexible person understands that setbacks, failures, and difficulties are not permanent barriers. They are signals to adjust, to try again in a different way, to bend without breaking. When one path is blocked, he looks for another. When one method fails, he experiments with the next. Flexibility keeps him moving, and movement is the essence of progress. The rigid man, by contrast, interprets every obstacle as final, every defeat as permanent. His refusal to adapt becomes his undoing. Resilience is not born of harsh resistance, but of intelligent adjustment. The boxer who can take a punch and keep moving is not the one who resists with all his strength against every blow, but the one who knows how to absorb it, shift his stance, and return with greater precision. In the same way, life's blows are inevitable. To withstand them is not to harden, but to learn how to move with them, how to adjust quickly, and how to regain balance after each strike. Flexibility also requires humility, the willingness to admit when something no longer works. Pride often keeps people rigid, unable to change because they do not want to appear wrong or vulnerable. But the resilient individual knows that to evolve is to release what no longer serves and to embrace what does. He is not concerned with appearances, he is concerned with growth, and in this openness to change he finds strength that cannot be shaken. Resilience is not about clinging to one way of being. It is about holding on to your purpose while allowing your methods to shift. A river does not flow in a straight line, yet it always reaches the sea. It bends, curves, and adjusts to the terrain, but it never loses its direction, so too must we. Flexibility does not weaken the spirit, it makes it unbreakable. For the one who can bend in the storms of life will always rise again stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what lies ahead. The world rewards those who learn faster than they fear. Fear is natural, it is the instinct that cautions us when we stand at the edge of the unknown. But fear, left unchecked, becomes the silent thief of opportunity. It freezes the hand that might have built, silences the voice that might have inspired, and blinds the eyes that might have discovered new horizons. Learning, on the other hand, is the antidote to fear. For once we understand, once we acquire knowledge and skill, the unknown no longer looms as a threat, but instead appears as a field of possibility. The difference between those who move forward in life and those who remain behind is not the absence of fear, but the presence of learning. Every new challenge arrives with uncertainty, and uncertainty always awakens fear. But the man who makes it his habit to learn swiftly, to study, to practice, and to adapt discovers that fear fades in proportion to his understanding. The one who hesitates, who waits for courage before taking the first step, often finds that courage never comes. The world does not wait for hesitation, it rewards the one who dares to learn in the midst of uncertainty. Consider how every great advancement has come to those who faced the unknown with curiosity greater than their fear. The explorers who sailed across uncharted seas, the inventors who risked failure with every experiment, the thinkers who challenged accepted truths, each felt the same fear that you and I feel. But they chose to learn, to ask, to test, to grow, and in doing so they unlocked rewards that changed the course of history. Their fear was not absent, but their willingness to learn was greater. Fear thrives in ignorance. What we do not understand appears larger, darker, and more threatening than it truly is. But when we study it, when we break it down piece by piece, the fear loses its power. A child is afraid of the dark because he does not know what lies within it. Turn on the light, and the fear disappears. Learning is that light. It turns shadows into shapes, mysteries into manageable tasks, and overwhelming challenges into opportunities for growth. The man who trains himself to learn quickly, who reads, observes, questions, and applies, moves ahead of those who remain paralyzed. He does not wait for the fear to leave, he moves forward by increasing his understanding until fear is left behind. And because he acts, the world rewards him with experience, with wisdom, with success. Those rewards compound, for each new lesson makes him braver for the next challenge, and soon fear becomes nothing more than a signal that he is on the threshold of growth. The world does not honor the hesitant, nor does it wait for the fearful. It honors those who move forward with a mind eager to learn. To fear is human, but to learn beyond fear is to master life itself. For the man who learns faster than he fears finds that every barrier becomes a teacher, every difficulty a lesson, and every step forward a reward waiting to be claimed. Adversity is a signal to adapt, not to quit. Too many treat adversity as the end of the road, a final judgment against their effort, when in truth it is nothing more than a redirection, a call to rethink, to refine, and to rise stronger than before. Life does not send adversity as punishment, but as instruction. Every challenge is a message, a reminder that the current path, the current method, or the current mindset is no longer enough to carry us forward. Those who misunderstand this message give up too soon. Those who understand it adapt and discover that adversity is often the very thing that sharpens them into the people they were meant to become. When a seed is pressed beneath the weight of the soil, it does not quit. It pushes upward, adapting to its environment until it breaks through the surface and finds the light. When water meets a rock, it does not stop. It changes its course, flowing around the obstacle, wearing it down over time, yet never abandoning its destination. Nature shows us again and again that adversity is not a dead end, but a signal to shift, to adjust, to find a new way. Human life is no different. The man who quits at the first sign of difficulty denies himself the opportunity to grow. He imagines that ease is the natural state of success, when in fact the very opposite is true. Every success is born of struggle, every achievement carries the mark of countless adjustments, revisions, and renewed efforts. The difference between the one who wins and the one who fails is not talent, intelligence, or luck. It is the decision to adapt instead of surrender when adversity arrives. Adversity is a teacher, though often a stern one. It reveals our weaknesses and exposes the flaws in our plans. It strips away illusions and forces us to face reality. But in that confrontation lies our chance to evolve. The rigid man, unwilling to change, sees adversity as defeat. The flexible man, willing to learn, sees it as instruction. He studies it, adjusts his methods, and tries again with greater wisdom than before. And slowly, by persisting through adaptation, he achieves what once seemed impossible. Those who thrive in life are not those who escape adversity, but those who respond to it intelligently. They do not waste time lamenting the difficulty or cursing their fate. Instead, they ask, "What can this teach me? How must I change to overcome this?" That question transforms adversity from a stumbling block into a stepping stone. It shifts the focus from despair to growth, from quitting to adapting, and in that shift lies the seed of progress. Every life is marked by challenges, setbacks, and trials. They cannot be avoided, but they can be mastered. To see adversity as a signal is to understand that life is not against you. It is shaping you. It is pushing you to shed what is no longer useful, to develop new strength, and to discover new paths. The man who adapts rises. The man who quits remains buried, and the choice between the two is made each time adversity knocks at the door. Every setback carries the seed of transformation. What we call failure is rarely the end. More often it is the very beginning of something greater, provided we are willing to look deeply enough. Life has a curious way of disguising opportunity inside disappointment. The plans we thought were ruined, the doors we thought were closed, the losses we believed unbearable, each has within it a hidden seed, a chance to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable than before. The tragedy is not that people experience setbacks, but that so many fail to recognize the treasure buried within them. A setback is not the universe denying us progress, it is life testing our readiness for it. If every path were smooth, if every endeavor succeeded at the first attempt, we would never develop resilience, never sharpen our character, never discover the deeper layers of strength within us. Adversity strips away what is weak, leaving only what is durable. And in that process we are transformed. The greatest changes in life rarely come in times of ease. They are born in moments of trial when the comfortable ground beneath us collapses and forces us to build again on firmer foundations. The man who suffers a setback has two choices. He can see it as a wall that blocks him, or as a mirror that reveals him. The wall convinces him to quit, to turn back, to surrender his vision. The mirror shows him where he must change, where he must grow, where his old ways are no longer enough. If he chooses the mirror, he begins the work of transformation. He adjusts his thinking, refines his methods, and develops qualities he never knew he possessed. And when he returns to his path, he is not the same man who first began it. He is stronger, more disciplined, more prepared for the journey ahead. Think of those who achieved greatness in any field. Their stories are not tales of uninterrupted success, but of repeated setbacks, each one carrying the seed of transformation. The inventor whose experiments failed countless times before success finally arrived. The entrepreneur who faced bankruptcy before building an empire. The leader who endured defeat before discovering the wisdom to lead with vision. These men and women did not escape setbacks, they embraced them, and in doing so they found the lessons that reshaped their lives. Every setback whispers the same truth. You must become more than you are. It calls us to shed complacency, to abandon habits that no longer serve us, to rise with greater determination. The seed of transformation is there, but it must be nurtured with patience, persistence, and faith. Those who tend to it discover that what once felt like an ending was actually a new beginning. The path was never lost, it was being redirected, refined, and prepared for something larger. A setback, then, is not a punishment but an invitation to transform, to step into a higher version of ourselves, and to prove that growth is always possible, even in the soil of disappointment. Evolution is not an event, it's a lifelong process. Too often people wait for some dramatic turning point, some single moment of change that will alter the course of their lives forever. They believe that one day, without warning, they will awaken to find themselves transformed, successful, fulfilled, and complete. But life does not work this way. Real evolution is not a sudden event, but a gradual unfolding, a steady and continuous process of becoming. It is not one decision made once, but many decisions made daily, each one carrying us a little further along the path of growth. The man who understands this truth does not wait for the perfect moment to begin. He knows there is no perfect moment. Instead, He uses each day as a stepping stone, each challenge as a teacher, each success as a lesson in how to continue. He sees life as a series of adjustments, refinements, and small victories that, when accumulated, amount to transformation. The great mistake is believing that transformation must come all at once. This belief paralyzes action. It convinces us that if change cannot be immediate, it is not worth beginning. Yet the truth is the opposite. Evolution is the reward of patience, persistence, and the courage to remain in motion. Look at nature, and you will see this principle at work. The mountain is shaped not by a single storm, but by centuries of wind and rain. The great tree does not reach its height in a single season, but grows slowly, ring by ring, year by year. The same law applies to us. We evolve through time, through repeated effort, through the long and steady shaping of character and habit. Each day we choose either to remain the same or to take one more step forward. Those small steps, imperceptible in the moment, add up to great distances over the years. This is why it is so important to cultivate the right habits, the right thoughts, and the right attitudes. For what we practice daily becomes who we are becoming. Evolution is not something reserved for a distant future. It is happening right now, in this very moment, as we think, act, and respond. We are not waiting to evolve. We are evolving whether we realize it or not. The question is not whether change is happening, but whether we are guiding it or allowing it to shape us by accident. The man who expects evolution to arrive as an event will always be disappointed, for he will not recognize the progress being made in small increments. But the one who understands that life is a process does not despair when results take time. He knows that the process itself is the reward, that the act of becoming is just as important as the destination. To evolve is to commit to lifelong learning, lifelong growth, and lifelong renewal. There is no finish line, only the continual unfolding of potential. And each step along the way is proof that we are moving, growing, and becoming more than we were yesterday. Your survival depends on your ability to evolve. This has always been the law of life, from the smallest creature to the greatest civilization. Those who adapted endured, and those who clung to the old ways vanished. The same principle governs your life today. It is not the strongest who thrive, nor the most intelligent, but those who can adjust to change, those who can let go of what no longer works, and those who can learn and move forward with courage. Life is movement. Nothing stays the same. Circumstances shift, opportunities appear and disappear, and challenges arise without warning. The man who insists on remaining as he is, who resists the tide of change, finds himself left behind, powerless against forces that will not wait for his approval. But the one who chooses to evolve discovers that he is never truly defeated. He learns, he adapts, he changes his approach, and he finds a way forward. Survival is not about standing still. It is about becoming. Every stage of your life demands a new version of you. The habits that carried you through yesterday may not be enough for tomorrow. The beliefs that once gave you strength may later hold you back. The skills that opened one door may not open the next. To survive and to grow, you must be willing to shed the old and embrace the new. Evolution requires flexibility, humility, and the willingness to admit that who you were yesterday is not enough for who you must become today. This is not easy, and it was never meant to be. Change unsettles us because it asks us to step away from certainty and into the unknown. But the unknown is where growth lives. It is where discovery happens. The man who dares to step into the unknown, to learn to stretch himself, finds treasures that the rigid and the fearful will never know. He discovers that he is capable of more than he imagined, that his limits were only temporary walls waiting to be broken. Think of those who rise to success in any era. They are not the ones who resisted change, but the ones who embraced it. They watched the world shift and they shifted with it. They learned new skills, adopted new ways of thinking, and let go of outdated methods that no longer served them. And because they evolved, they thrived where others fell behind. This is the quiet law of life: evolve or be replaced. Your survival depends on your ability to evolve, because life is relentless in its demand for growth. The world does not pause for your hesitation. It does not make room for stubbornness. It rewards those who are willing to learn faster than they fear, to adapt quicker than they resist, and to remain in motion when others stand still. Each day you are faced with a choice to stay as you are or to become more than you have been. And in that choice lies the difference between decline and progress, between being left behind and moving forward with the unfolding flow of life. Life is a continual test of our willingness to grow, to change, and to evolve. Strength alone is not enough, nor is intelligence without adaptability. The world belongs to those who remain flexible, who embrace change instead of fearing it, who understand that setbacks are signals to adjust, and who see every challenge as an opportunity to transform. Comfort zones are illusions, and survival demands that we step beyond them. Evolution is not a single event but a lifelong process, and each day we are given the choice to either remain as we are or to rise into something greater. Your future, your success, and even your survival depend upon your ability to evolve, to shed the old, to welcome the new, and to continually become more than you were yesterday.